This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing, helping students and educators build workforce-ready skills through innovation. You can learn more at nextgenmfg.org.
I am so excited for today's episode. And listeners, I think you are going to be just as excited. We have Charli Hughes back in our studio a year after she has completed her first year of college. So if you have been a long-time listener, you will remember that Charli was here in June of 2024, and we got to talk to her all about her experiences as a senior in high school and navigating college applications and then college choices. And she just completed her first year at UConn. And as promised, we brought her back into the studio. Matt is not here, so I have full creative control. So it's going to be a wild ride. You ready, Charli?
Oh my gosh, Liz, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm really excited to hop in with everybody.
All right. Well, let's start with, how was your first year at UConn?
Wow. I mean,
just a little bit broad, right?
What a wild ride. It's been absolutely crazy. I started as just a computer science major. I added a major since being there. I did research. I did fellowships. Oh my gosh, it was amazing.
So not really busy, just kind of hid in your room a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I just sat around.
A lot
really.
of sleeping. All right. So already you've told us that you've added a major. So what major did you add on top of doing already difficult computer science?
I was doing computer science, like I said, and now I'm also doing molecular and cell biology to add more of a focus on kind of the bio and bioinformatics side. And that's really exciting for me.
I just have no words. That's amazing. And you are incredible. And that's super exciting. So I'm looking at, some of the goals you shared with us last summer were around bioinformatics. And so it obviously made sense to you to kind of do both of those majors and mix it all together.
So part of this was that I decided I kind of wanted to extend my college experience. So I was graduating in 3 years and I wanted something to make me take the whole 4.
Okay.
Being in college for a year made me realize that maybe I'm not so eager to get out and be a full-time working adult.
Yep.
So yeah, but I am really interested in kind of drug discovery, the bioinformatics side, and I wanted a major that could help me really understand the science behind that, because I think that a lot of people, especially people in AI, are able to they get really good at just looking at data and manipulating data and not so good at understanding the science behind the data. And I would really like to get to be on both sides of that.
All right. Well, that's amazing. In this first year, how many classes did you take?
Oh, boy. I want to say probably 5 and 5. I can't remember off the top of my head, actually. It's all kind of a blur, but 10 in total around.
All right. So what was your favorite class?
This is a tough one. I think my favorite computer science class was probably data structures and algorithms, but I would be remiss not to mention Bio 1107, my introduction to biology course, where I had a really good time. And that's the course that actually encouraged me to pick up that second major too.
All right. So did you dissect something in that bio class?
No, but we did look at a lot of fetal pigs.
Okay, but you didn't have to dissect a fetal pig.
Not with my own 2 hands, no.
At least in the late 90s when I was in college, that was one of the things you had to do in that first bio class was dissect a fetal pig. And that kind of cut out some of the people that were going to be able to continue on a medical path. And those that were yeah, no, I can't dissect a fetal pig. There's no way I'm ever going to, escalate to dissecting a human cadaver.
Yeah, I know plenty of people who were not too excited about the prospect of having to dissect themselves. So I'm happy that it didn't come to that this semester or this past semester.
But maybe next year.
Oh, one can only hope.
All right. So obviously our podcast is about AI and education. So I'm really excited to talk about how this has shown up in your life in classes, formally and informally, in assignments, student use. So let's kind of break it down first, starting with professors. So how did professors address AI? Did you have some that were very explicit about it? Was it kind of just implied? What did you hear from your professors?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we're at a stage now with AI use that every professor is pretty aware that students are going to be trying to use AI, whether they address it or not. So with that in mind, most of the more tech savvy of my professors have started using AI. And even some of them told us that we were completely allowed to use AI because the assignments are kind of purposely geared to not really have AI be super helpful. So in my multivariable calculus class, our professor actually told us that they wrote all of the questions and ran them through a bunch of different LLMs to get to see what the responses would be from those LLMs. And if you used an LLM generated response for your answers to those questions, you would be docked more points than had you just left the question blank.
Wow. All right. So that's really interesting to hear that, and great to hear that teachers, professors are trying to make those assessments more durable. So that's the phrase that we use is making assessments durable versus vulnerable. Durable being that you can use all the AI you want, but it's not going to do the assignment. So it seems like you definitely have some of those assignments. Any other examples of assignments where the professor was like, use AI all you want, it's not going to help?
I mean, it's hard because sometimes students with clever prompting can find their way around kind of those AI barriers. But in those situations, the professors do often ask that a student shares their prompt if they find a prompt that's helpful. But that was kind of my primary example, believe it or not, of durable assignments. But one thing that I did see that I thought was pretty cool was professors saying that students were allowed to use AI, but just asking that they use AI as a tool for learning. I had another professor in that same data structures and algorithms class that I said was one of my favorites that had us use AI a few days before the assignment was due, our weekly coding assignment, if we really couldn't figure it out. And all that he asked was that we read through it and really try to understand the code, and every line of code should be written by us.
Okay.
But not necessarily, prohibiting the use of AI, just saying that we really need to understand the output.
Right.
So I think that that's another way that teachers were kind of trying to not explicitly ban AI use because really, kids are going to use it either way.
Right.
But instead help out.
Yeah, I think that's really the direction we want to encourage schools to go, right? Like you said, everyone's going to use it. It's going to be part of your life, and students are going to try to use it to just get the work done. So it's great when the faculty are kind of like, I know you're going to try, but let's just all be transparent about it. Did you have any assignments where you were told you needed to use AI, where like AI was part of the assessment?
Well, I mean, as a computer science major, one really big thing that we see is AI grading our assessments. So I think it's kind of hard for us to find a way around that because a lot of the times we have a platform where we submit our code to that runs our test cases and checks our code. And oftentimes AI is an element in that. So that's a pretty interesting use case in my experience. And it is kind of a hit or a miss. I mean, we hear a lot, especially in the job market, about like automated screeners for resumes that use AI. And that's a big point of frustration. And honestly, that's one thing that does kind of concern me. I don't want AI to be kind of used as a primary method of getting away with some work like that I don't think it's ready to take on.
We've heard a lot about AI being used to screen resumes, even to do initial interviews through chatbots or even through speaking with an AI chatbot. And people have some feelings about that because you have to learn a different skill, I think, to like hack the AI system, and you have to create your resume to get through a filter versus like have a human see it. So that's a new challenge.
One of the big things that I think I've taken away from kind of reading a lot about AI and learning about it, doing research in it and things like that is that there really is still no substitute for like a human brain and human interaction. And I mean, maybe one day we will have AI that can take over and that could sufficiently screen a resume and, notice the different nuances in that resume more than just parsing, looking for specific keywords. But I don't think that we're there yet. And I don't think that we want to be in a place where we're incentivizing profits and efficiency over just like being able to talk to another human.
Oh, I love that. Incentivizing profits over real humans, not a good thing.
No, not a good thing.
Not a good thing. Where do you see it showing up with students? Like what is the student kind of take on it? Was it controversial? Did that come up as a topic? Like ethically, were students talking about it? What are peers saying about AI?
It's a really mixed bag. It's a super controversial topic, and it's really interesting how I think in the adult world, there's kind of a conception that students will all kind of have similar views and like, oh, young people all have the same takes. They're all the same. They all share opinions, but that's really not true. I know a lot of people who don't really think that they're being very smart by using AI on assignments, especially in the computer science world where there are so many screenings before you get a job. There are so many ways that you have to prove that you have the skills that they're looking for. By using AI to get A's in your assignments, it's not really doing much for you. But there are also the students, and I don't think that this is invalid, who are really struggling, and they see AI as like a way for them to finally get the grades that they need because they're really just fighting for their lives through these assignments. So I think that we do need to have a conversation about AI use that holds empathy for these people, and kind of acknowledges that like sometimes people are just working really hard and they just feel like they're never going to figure it out. And so they use AI. And I'm not saying that that's the right thing for them to do, but I do think that we should have a conversation with them that, again, just empathizes with their situation and kind of helps them work through that without passing judgment on them for what agents they do or do not use.
Yeah. So far, the classes you've talked about have been in the hard sciences. Did you take any like English 101 or history this year that was more like humanities and writing based, or were you like in the sciences?
I did, yeah. So I took one philosophy course.
Okay.
And I was very in the sciences, guilty. But yeah, I took that philosophy course, and it was really cool to be able to experience a more Englishy writing, subjective almost side of things.
Were those assignments vulnerable? Like, were a lot of the assignments things that you could have done with AI had you not been the ethical student you are? Or do you feel like those professors are also looking for ways to increase durability? Like, did you have to handwrite work in class, or what are they trying to do to, cut down on AI use, if they are trying to cut down on it?
Honestly, in that class, I did not see a lot of really good methods for cutting down on AI use other than, in the syllabus, don't use AI. If you get caught, you'll get a 0, which I found really interesting. So we had the structure of our assignments was 20% to 20% assignments, an essay and a dialogue. We had to write like a script that demonstrated some philosophical concept. And we had 2 in-class tests. And for those tests, we actually got the questions beforehand, and then we had to handwrite in class. So I appreciated that this class kind of gave us not necessarily an easy A, but the path was there to get an A if you just did the work and you actually studied and put in time beforehand. But yeah, these assignments were not very durable. I knew a lot of people who just put the philosophical concepts, for example, into AI and said, hey, give me the information that I need to know about these. And yeah, they got the information they wanted to know.
Right. All right. So interesting that there is still a good amount of just written assignments that are pretty durable or pretty vulnerable to the use of AI. So did you use deep research at all in any of the chatbots to research a topic deeply, or not yet? Or
I actually did do that a couple of times, not necessarily for a specific class, but more for my research. One really interesting use case that I found is this summer I'm actually working on a research grant that I got as well. And AI was pretty instrumental in helping me structure my proposal with things like hunting down research publications for me and telling me what some of the background research was to help me build upon that. So it was really interesting for me to kind of get to experience looking at that research and fact checking it. And a lot of the time it is really accurate. And I had my peers review my proposal. It's like a big 10-page chunky research paper. And they told me that it seemed really well researched, which I was really happy with. A lot of the bulk of that was taken off of my back by AI, luckily.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about the quality, there was clearly going to be a time limit on how long you had to prepare this document. And I'm assuming that what you were able to pull together by using deep research effectively just made your proposal all that more strong and didn't take away from the fact that you didn't have to go find the books in the library. You just got to use the good stuff. And then the real learning was what you did the research on. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what the research was on? Will I understand it at all?
So my research was looking at the role of androgen receptors and the DNA damage response pathway, which is how our cells fix our DNA, basically, in developing ovarian cancer in women with PCOS specifically. So I was using a Boolean network, which is a kind of model that shows nodes as our different genes in on-off states, so that we could kind of look at how those relationships impact each other given a set of parameters around those different relationships.
Oh, I totally got all of that. And yeah, it's...
I'm not sure that that's a very good response. So if there are any experts in the audience, I apologize. But yeah.
That's fascinating. And I can see how like all the different pieces, I mean, clearly I do not have the depth of knowledge, but when you're talking, I'm like, okay, so there's the bioinformatics and the AI all kind of, and the computer science all coming together, because there is this piece of biology around cells, and particularly ovarian cancer cells and in PCOS. But you're testing different things with on off and running different models and simulations, right?
Yeah, and also using some models to help us select what we think the important genes are too, based on our initial data that shows like the activation of those genes.
So ultimately, would your research be about preventing ovarian cancer or detecting ovarian cancer or curing ovarian cancer?
Right now, the detection is really important to me because the detection of ovarian cancer is what makes it so deadly. It's a very sneaky disease. Women often don't know that they have it until it's already spread to the lining of their stomach. That's what actually gets them sick when they go to the doctor and get it checked out. And by then, it's often too late to really effectively treat. It's already stage 3 or stage 4. And this was actually inspired by my own family, by my grandma who had ovarian cancer, and she was able to detect it early through a totally different procedure, just kind of by luck, and that ended up very likely saving her life. So I kind of wanted to spread the wealth on that, hopefully learn a little bit more and help the community.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And like you said, so important, really important work. And, you know, as you are doing it, I'm just amazed. It's wonderful. It's not what I was doing my freshman year after college. I was at sleepaway camp running through the woods.
I mean, sleepaway camp would be pretty nice.
Yeah. I mean, it was certainly fun. I don't know that and it prepared me for life in many ways.
There you go.
I was not saving women's lives.
But yeah, I mean, throughout that process, I've definitely learned a lot about AI use. And I think my mindset changed a lot through the process of working on this research, because I kind of realized that, especially in a research setting, it's a little bit different when you have classes and your goal is to learn. But in a research setting, I feel that my job is to put together a new body of knowledge for the science world to utilize somehow. And that is like a pretty big, daunting, overwhelming task. But I think that by kind of using AI and looking at it as a tool, I am able to kind of get this done better, because, you know, when you think about it, AI is the product of the work that already exists in the world. AI is not inherently capable of putting together a new body of work, because AI only knows the things that already exist, the things that have been fed into it, and the things that it's been trained on.
Right.
So it can't just do it for me, but what it can do is tell me everything that's been done before and how I could put that towards what I'm working on, which is just not something that my feeble human brain can do on its own, at least not very efficiently.
Right. I feel like 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, your whole summer could have been spent just doing that pre-research, right? Like what you were able to do using deep research and good prompting to get to the point where you could propose this. I feel like 5 years ago, a student would have just been proposing to do the research to bring together that body of work before even getting into the field. And with deep research, like you have all that knowledge together. And like you said, like now I can go and build off of that, which is really neat.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Honestly, I would say even like a couple of years ago, the prospect of putting together a 10-page document synthesizing for all of the previous research and proposing new research would have been like a very hefty task.
Yeah.
And it still is. But just with the advancements in the models that we have and the LLMs and just the different things that we can do, I think it's a lot more doable. And I also, it's not like I'm some like crazy science expert. Like at the end of the day, I go to UConn. I'm 18. I'm no genius. I'm no, molecular. I'm no molecular and cell bio expert. But having the chance to have these tools and use these tools to create something really cool is something that's very valuable for me.
Yeah. And for the world, I'm sure. So clearly, like AI is not taking your job. Like if your job was to keep doing this or you continue on this path, like AI isn't going to take that job because we need humans to actually tell it what to do, to run tests, and then you're going to have to actually engage in experiments and analyze data. And it can do parts of that, but your job is not at risk. And your future career by being a computer science major and cell and molecular biology, like you'll have lots of options. Do you see students talking about AI, like fears of AI taking jobs or differences in like are students considering their major in light of what AI is doing? Is that conversation on campus?
Yeah, people definitely talk about it. I will say, I think in the AI community that I am in, kind of where we're doing research and we're talking about AI a whole lot, there's not a really big fear of AI taking all of the jobs. There's a realistic conversation to be had about what AI might do, because I mean, at this point, I think all of us know it would be foolish to think the world isn't going to change at all and the job market isn't going to change at all and the roles that we have humans in aren't going to change at all. That's not the case. But I don't think that people have to feel like AI is going to make everyone destitute. And one thing that's left out of this conversation is how all the ways that AI can actually make our lives better and improve our day-to-day workflows, our day-to-day, work-life balance, things like that. But in general, in conversations at college, there are definitely jokes, especially among the computer science majors, like, oh, why are we even learning this? AI is going to take our job anyway. We're not going to have to worry about doing this. And honestly, to some extent, I think that it's valid. There are obviously things that we have to learn because that's like our baseline of knowledge that we carry with us to help us advance to those higher levels. But for a lot of people, like, I'm trying to think of a good example without offending any potential software developers in the audience. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of things that AI could do pretty effectively. But again, that doesn't take out the human component and the necessity of having a human kind of at the forefront of all that.
I mean, the headlines are all like, kids are cheating their way through college and AI is going to take all the jobs. And I think you are giving us hope that AI is not doing all the work at college, and you believe that it is not going to take all your jobs. So the kids are not at college just like having existential crises around their futures.
I think all of us have seen the memes that are like me going to the doctor in 20 years when it's, the kids who cheated their way through medical school, or, me getting into the plane that was designed by the aerospace engineer who used chat to get through college. And those fears are valid. I understand why people have those fears, but I also think that that's a good place where we could kind of be mindful of the conversations that we're having in media and maybe not making things more dramatic than they need to be for the sake of a few likes or, a giggle, a little nose like snort when we see something funny. Because I think that those are the places where like actual fear starts, and we have to kind of get ahead of that, because at the end of the day, regulations exist. People are not, people do have to take very difficult exams and they have to be professionals and all of the above. So I don't think that AI could replace like that knowledge.
Well, that's, definitely what we believe as well.
Hi, I'm Cam Audia, the executive producer of ChatEDU. As we look to the next academic year, many schools are exploring how to implement AI literacy efforts for students. Building on the success of our AI teacher micro-credential, EdAdvance, and ChatEDU, are launching a middle and high school student AI literacy program. This cutting-edge curriculum is hosted on our FERPA-compliant AI platform and will help students develop the knowledge and skills they'll need to navigate AI now and into the future. To learn more, email Matt and Liz at chatedu@edadvance.org.
So I'm wondering this year, as you were doing all of your learning and teachers are doing more durable assignments and, or letting you use AI in different ways, did you have to do a lot of oral presentations or conversations? And then what about group work at college? Is that still a thing? And how does it go?
So believe it or not, I did not have to do any group work at all this year.
Really?
Which was super surprising. And I have a lot of friends who did have to do group assignments, specifically in more humanities oriented majors. And also one of my finance major friends had to do some group assignments. Not sure how you would classify a finance major. But for me, I didn't have to do anything in a group.
Wow. And what about oral presentations? Did you have to do
No
any?
oral presentations either. Most of my classes were structured just as coding assignments and then a coding exam, or in the case of biology, lab assignments and then an exam.
Right.
But yeah, no group assignments. And I think that that's honestly something that we're really missing out on, because it's not like interpersonal skills are becoming any less important.
Yeah.
As time goes on. And honestly, if anything, I think that they're more important than ever. There are a lot of people who really don't know how to talk to other people, don't know how to talk to each other. So that is something that I hope that I'll see more of as I advanced further through my education.
That is really surprising, because we hear so much about how students need to be able to collaborate as they go into career. And it's a portrait of the graduate skill in almost every school, that collaboration and communication. And then to go through a full year of college, like you said, 10 courses, maybe, around 10 courses, and not necessarily have to collaborate is it's very interesting. Hopefully you'll do some of that in the future. And same with oral defense or having to make presentations. We talk about, again, how important communication is. And that's such a good way to make assignments durable, is by just having a student have to talk about it. You can't, even if the student used AI to learn it, right, they still have to stand up there and present it and sound knowledgeable. And if someone asks them a question, they have to be able to defend their answer. And so I'm really interested around maybe why that didn't happen, or how it'll change next year when we have you back for year 3 of the Charli Show.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have to say, having done an internship last year, and now that I've completed actually my internship this year, those skills are still really important in industry. And in industry, AI has not advanced kind of to the same extent that we see in our daily lives with the LLM specifically. Obviously, every company has their internal AI projects happening, but with the LLMs, internal LLMs are not quite there. And a lot of that is just by virtue of some of these companies like OpenAI and Anthropic not releasing their LLMs for offline use, but that still is not really a thing that's super up to date in industry. And so, yeah, those skills are still really important. It's not a chatbot has taken over as our sole method of communication, right. Interpersonal communication when you're working a big girl job. So, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about AI outside of the classroom. One of the things that we hear is that character AI is it's the third most used chatbot, that students are using AI for therapy, that students are enjoying having AI companions. Do you see your peers using AI outside of the classroom, whether it's for advice or taking a picture and what's that bird on the UConn campus? Or how are you seeing, if you're seeing it at all, how are you seeing your peers or you using AI in non-academic ways?
I use AI for kind of those random little use cases, asking little questions, kind of help explain XYZ to me. Of course, all of us usually end up using AI just with a simple Google search. Our little Gemini helper pops up and tells us all about what we're hoping to know. So that's one way that you really can't get around it. But to be honest, the use as therapy or as a friend even does concern me with AI use, especially as the news recently broke that when we use ChatGPT, if we hit the share icon on our response, then that will automatically be made public. And I am admittedly a data privacy freak.
Good.
I get very worried about data privacy, about how our data is being used. And it makes me really scared for the people who are less educated on that because, you're talking to these agents and they become, the data is all open. The things that you are talking about to this agent, not private. So, yeah, I think that that's something that we really need to educate on because a lot of people just have like the I don't care mindset. But one thing that my dad has been saying since I was young is that the internet is written in ink. And as soon as something is on the internet, it's not so easy to get rid of that. So, maybe I don't care right now, but would Charlie in 15 years care if this got out? Maybe. So, yeah, that is a really major concern that I have.
Yeah. And are you seeing it used at all kind of nefariously or in a joking around way? Like, are you seeing deep fakes on campus or people using it, in other ways that you're like, that's just a really bad idea?
I haven't seen any deep fakes yet, personally. But the scary thing about deep fakes is maybe I have and I just didn't realize that it wasn't real.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that deep fake protection is a really big thing that we should worry about in college campuses. And again, I say we should worry about it, but maybe worry isn't the best phrase so much as we should prepare for that eventuality and create some rules, regulations, solutions before it becomes a bigger problem.
I'm also curious about, we talked a lot about, the use of LLMs and chatbots. Are you seeing or did you use it to do any of the other tasks like make a song for you or generate an image or use it to, we love Napkin AI here because it makes some great visuals. Like, have you used it to do any of those tasks?
Yeah, so this is actually one of the more fun things that I did in my time at UConn. But my friends and I created a satire news account for UConn where we just came up with like joke headlines, kind of like The Onion, but for UConn.
Right.
And we would use AI to generate a lot of our graphics, actually, like show me an army of pigeons in front of the student union, things like that. So yeah, that is one way that I've used it. And also, believe it or not, find it super helpful for scheduling. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the tool Notion. No shout out, not sponsored. But I had a Notion page to keep track of all my assignments and things like that. But graphic design is not my strong suit. I had no idea how to make it pretty. So I did use an LLM to help me out with how to design that, how to make it functional given what I wanted it to be able to do.
That's awesome. I have not heard of Notion and will certainly be looking that up later because
you should.
We all need a little time management and organization.
Lots of great templates.
Oh, really? That's great. I'm excited to see that. Maybe it'll help my own daughters as well. So one of the things we talked about last year was policy, and you were very interested in high school talking about policy around policy in general. I think that was kind of part of your work with student council, if I'm remembering that correctly. Yep. And so, are there policies writ large at UConn around AI and ethics? Are teachers creating policy? Where are we on that kind of policy front, and where do you think we need to go?
So at UConn, I've seen a lot of it at the departmental scale. So like the computer science department has their overarching policy about AI. And a lot of what I've seen is kind of a general don't use it, which we all know is not super realistic. There's no good way to track that. People are going to use LLMs whether you want them to or not, which more often you don't want them to. But I think that the direction that we should be moving in is more mindful. I really liked the mindset that I discussed from my data structures and algorithms class, where the professor had the expectation that if we were to use AI, we'd use it several days in advance, get an idea of how the code worked, and then based on that, write the code ourselves. And it's really that mutual respect as well, and mutual understanding of I know that you're going to use it. You know you're going to use it. So let's talk about how you can use it in an acceptable way for this class. That really helped bridge the divide for me between kind of being able to use AI and feeling like I was still doing it ethically and in a good way.
In that example, did your professor show you as a class like how to prompt so that you used the LLM better? Or did they just say like, you can just put in what I've given you and it's going to prompt it? Like, was there any discussion about how best to use?
So the idea was generally just like using the question itself as a prompt. Right. And for that class in particular, again, it's kind of hard with some of the formative computer science skills, especially because a lot of those skills are very well documented. You know, there's a lot of data out there on how to do a bubble sort that make it kind of easy for you to find information and easy for a chatbot to generate an acceptable response, a functional response. But yeah, it's tricky.
And so did you see students or know of students who were caught using an LLM? And did you see, like, what was the fallout? Were there conversations with students? Do you know people that were sent to ethics boards or, you know, failed classes? Or like, what do you see when professors suspect that a student used an LLM?
In one of my classes, this was actually maybe I shouldn't say the name of
just
the class.
One of your classes.
One of my classes at UConn. The professor was not particularly engaged in the learning of the students. It was a lot of TAs doing the work and bringing concerns to the professors when I came up. And even on our exams, it was open computer, just us and our laptops, no lockdown browser, no nothing, just a development environment. Most of the time that was VS Code. And there were TAs that went to this professor with concerns that somebody used AI to cheat on an exam. And the professor in that situation said there was nothing that they could do because they had no proof that the student actually did that other than this looks AI generated in the code. So that was one of the more unfortunate and frustrating components that I have seen. And honestly, I've even had some TAs who just say like, I don't want to help you with this, so just put it into chat, see what chat says. That's a big line around college campuses, see what chat says.
See what chat says.
And yeah, I mean, that's, as you can imagine, really frustrating for me as a student who's trying to like actually do the work myself. And then somebody is getting an A because they put it into a chatbot and got a response.
Right.
So those situations are really frustrating. And that's where we kind of need some AI traceability, I think, which is in big part the responsibility of the people developing the technology to help us come up with ways that make it more traceable. And that's something that I hope to see with AI research as well. Some of the best ways that we could do that. But also part of it is like, you know, to colleges, let's do a little bit more than the bare minimum on just letting us use open computers on our exams.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many different ways to like have lockdown browsers now. Matt and I covered a story about Turnitin's Clarity, which is a platform where you will do the work in the platform that will basically shut down your browser. Although there will be the ability to use AI if you want to, like if the teacher turns it on. So, you know, we are curious to see how that kind of continues to roll out now that Google Classroom is going to have Gemini built right in. And so like we're very interested in to see how it rolls out in K-12 schools as well as colleges and what kind of policy schools continue to make.
I actually have a crazy story about a student using AI and getting caught. It was a little bit wild. This was not at the University of Connecticut, but I did know someone who used an LLM to generate some code for him. And I'm not sure if anyone has ever actually generated code with an LLM, but line by line in kind of all the relevant sections of code, you get a comment about what it's doing in that specific area. And somebody made the mistake of submitting their code with those comments still in there. And those make it pretty obvious what you were doing. So he submitted his code and he got a message from his professor saying, we need to have a conversation about the code that you recently submitted. And this kid actually kind of gamed the system and went into his log history on his code editor and revised the timestamps to make it seem as if he had been testing code and just used an LLM to generate code for him to test and verify his previous code that he had written. And he sent a very apologetic message to his professor explaining the whole situation and how he just had generated it to check his work and accidentally submitted that file. And he actually got out of it. So even when professors are kind of doing their thing, they're on it about making sure that students are being ethical, it still doesn't always go their way.
Wow. Interesting. Have you been following the news recently about Google's new study mode and ChatGPT's new study mode that they both have released in the last week?
I have not, but I would love to hear about it.
So ChatGPT just released Study and Learn. And so in this example, when you go to Study and Learn, it won't give you the answers. So it will help you make flashcards. It'll prompt you through a question, but it won't give you the answer. And so I'm wondering if you think students will find that appealing and say like, oh, I don't always want the answer. Like, let me try this Study and Learn thing. Or if you think, which again, people have said like, you can also have just prompted the system to say, don't give me the answer, like walk me through writing this essay. Study and Learn just kind of puts that wrapper around it already. But I'm wondering if you think that's, are students using it in that way already? Like, don't give me the answer, just help me study? Or
yeah, I mean, at least for me, I have done that a lot. And when you were saying that, an interesting point occurred to me that we need to keep in mind that college students are college students. So the college student of today who doesn't feel like doing their work, who wants to cheat their way through college, is going to say, hey, ChatGPT, tell me the solutions to this homework. Give me the code solution to this homework so I can submit it and be done. Just like the college student of 2001 might have said, hey, person who's in my class, hey, smart kid who's in my class, I'm going to give you $5 and you're going to give me the solution to the homework. How about that? Exactly. So, I mean, our workforce is doing just fine with people who have previously cheated their way through college. Cheating in college is not a new phenomenon.
Absolutely not.
So even though it's taken a little bit of a different form, that's something to keep in mind. So, somebody might have made their own flashcards back in the day instead of taking them from their friends. And that's the same thing as somebody making their own flashcards versus using AI to generate their flashcards. At the end of the day, they're studying. I think that that's really excellent because, it can be kind of difficult to say, just don't give me the answers. Like, no, don't give me the answers. Right. And that's definitely a tool that I'll be using.
Yeah, we've found it to be so interesting because it will generate study guides. It'll generate, timelines, and it has been really neat. So I was demoing it with our micro-credential, and it came up with I gave it the wrong answer on purpose. And to the equation x plus 5 equals 8, I said that x equals 2. And it said, okay, so now let's plug that back into the equation. If you replace x with 2, is that equation correct? And I was like, oh, no, it's not. So then it kept walking me through. Gemini had a little more trouble doing that this morning. So we're watching for it because Gemini said great. But I think the idea of it's always hard to, I always found it difficult, particularly in math and science, to like make up questions that I then wanted to practice because I wasn't always sure if my answer was correct. So your options were like, try the odd problems because the answers were in the back of the book, or try problems that you've already done. And then you're not sure if you really know it or you just remember the procedure. And so I think being able to put things in and, walking through and having AI just give you practice problems is great. The same way, I loved studying with my friends in college and like quizzing each other and, studying. But if you don't have that opportunity, if you study at a different time than your friends, like this is another cool way to just quiz yourself and test yourself and hopefully be prepared for that test. Because like you said, ultimately, most of the time, you've got to go in there and do the test.
And you're absolutely right. It is really hard to come up with those questions. And this is really an excellent way to kind of be able to work on things yourself. And it's, yet another manifestation of a use case for AI that is reshaping our lives maybe, but not making anything any worse. It's making our lives better. It's making us smarter. And it ultimately ends up being a good thing.
Yeah. So last year we talked a little bit about your brother's experience with AI. So did he just finish 8th grade?
He just finished 7th grade. He recently had his 13th birthday.
All right. Well, happy birthday to your brother. Did you see his use of AI increase at all this year? Was he using it in school, or was he your little brother and you were like, I'm at college. Tell me about it later.
I mean, I will. There was a little bit of the I'm at college. Tell me about it later going on. No, my brother and I have spoken a lot about his schoolwork, and I have found that he's really worried about doing well on his tests. He really cares about studying himself and making sure that he understands things. Honestly, I think that AI is kind of more of a joke for those middle schoolers than anything else. They love talking about using chat in a funny way, like, I don't know, generate me a song about farts.
Yeah.
I don't know what 7th graders do, but
That's what they do.
So in that sense, I could see it being distracting in a classroom, but maybe not harmful. No more distracting than, people passing notes. Yeah, talking about the cheese touch when I was in 6th grade.
Oh, Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I haven't really seen a lot of cheating going on through that.
That's good.
Especially, it's easier in younger kids, too, because I think that it would be pretty easy to distinguish between a 7th grader's writing and a prompt-generated essay.
Yeah.
They're pretty night and day. So
pretty clear.
So in that sense, it's easier too. And there are some people who I know who are like, they're prompting AI and they're like, make it simpler. And then it's a 2-sentence summary and they say, make it simpler. And now it's a 1-sentence summary. So in theory, they could do that. But really, I think students would rather just write the essay.
Yeah, it's probably more efficient in that case. All right, so let's look ahead a little bit. So what is one thing about AI in education you hope changes in the next year?
That's a really tough question.
I'm here for the hard-hitting questions.
I hope that we emphasize explainability more, that students look at AI and the response that they may receive from a prompt about anything from homework to doing some of that deep research, and think critically about where it comes from. And I hope that there's research done on the LLMs themselves and on different models themselves to help us get an element of that explainability so it's not just a black box. And also just data privacy. Like I mentioned, I hope that AI use becomes more secure and that students' data can be protected when using AI.
I like it. Where do you see yourself experimenting with AI in your next year of college? Like, where do you think you might go and take AI things?
Well, for starters, I'm going to have to use that study tool. But other than that, I think that I'm going to be using it a lot more for research, a lot more especially in the bio area. I've dabbled in figuring out what its capabilities are for code and writing me code and generate code and fix it and debugging and blah, 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 blah. But bio is a little bit more of an unexplored, uncharted territory for me, especially in lab settings. I found that it's actually not super functional when I'm thinking about some of those like lab procedures and things like that. So I'm hoping to use it for that. And also for a startup that I'm working on totally separately.
Oh, Charli, do you sleep?
I do. It sounds way crazier than it actually is. But yeah, for those use cases as well, in kind of a more businessy setting.
All right. Well, now you have to give us a few sentences on your startup.
The startup is still a little bit under wraps right now because we are very new, but we're looking at developing a patch for radiation dermatitis and diabetic foot ulcers to help detect those earlier so that patients can be treated.
Wow. And are you doing that just like outside of school completely or with people or like?
With my friends, and it's so much fun.
That is not what I was doing with my friends. I love it. That's awesome. Say it one more time. A patch.
So it's a patch that's supposed to be placed on the feet of people with diabetes for diabetic foot ulcers and on radiation sites for patients who are dealing with radiation dermatitis to help detect and prevent those issues.
Oh, very interesting. My grandmother was diabetic and her feet were always an issue. And I know that often results in amputation. So I'm assuming this will help prevent things from going that far.
Yeah, that's our goal. It's really challenging for people who, especially with a growing population of people who have diabetes. It is a big challenge. So we're hoping that it will help treat them in an affordable way, especially because the income levels of people who are developing diabetes often aren't very high. So it can be difficult for them to get the preventative care that helps take care of that. So we're hoping for a low-cost alternative that can help make those less of a problem.
So now I have a million questions. So will the patch require like AI vision? Like how will the patch work?
There is going to be an AI component. So part of what we're looking for is to give the patient some ownership and accountability in their health. So there is an element where the patient can kind of see and detect their own levels of, what's going on there visually. But there also will be an AI agent attached to that is looking at some readings from the patient for use by a doctor. So a little bit of both.
Awesome. We just covered a story of students in a southern state, I can't remember which one, where the students developed using AI vision cancer screening for mouth cancer because 90% of adults in the community had not seen a dentist in the last year. And so using like pictures of their mouth, there was like AI ability and machine learning to detect cancer, which is so cool.
Those use cases are so awesome. I know a group of girls who I'm really involved in Society of Women Engineers at UConn. Oh. And I know a group of girls from that group for their senior design project who developed a tool for haptic feedback to teach women how to do mammary exams. How to do like self-breast exams for breast cancer prevention. And that was another super cool project. So, I love my medical use cases.
Yes. And Matt and I love Beyond the Bot cases where we see students using AI that's not just a chatbot, using the other components of AI and using it for good besides just in education. So you now brought us a Beyond the Bot story as well.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I love it. All right. Rapid fire.
Yes.
Favorite AI tool right now?
Claude.
All right. Most overhyped AI topic.
Could I say AI taking your jobs?
Yes, absolutely. Most underrated AI application.
Deep research.
Nice. One skill every student should develop in the AI era.
Good prompting.
And one sentence, advice for high school seniors about to enter college in an AI world.
Don't overuse it. Use it in ways that will help you and to study, but don't try to get away with doing your assignments just with AI because I have seen it come back to bite people.
Love it. Charli, this was such a fun conversation. So much good stuff here. And it is always such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to be back next year.
Oh, I'm so glad you will. I've already committed to coming back next year. And I can't wait to get updates on your startup and college and all things. Now, sophomore year, will you think about studying abroad for junior year? Is that something that interests you? But you have a double major, so that can be sometimes really restrictive.
It can be a little bit intense, but I'm thinking about doing at least a winter study abroad. I'm a little bit of a homebody, so I get a little bit nervous thinking about going too far, but I'm definitely interested in at least relocating for whatever internship or research I do next summer.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. All right, Charli, at the end of every episode, I have a job, and Matt says it's time to, and then do you know what I have to say?
No, what do you have to say?
I have to say, roll the credits. So this is your task now. So with that, Charli, it's time to
roll the credits.
All right. As always, we'd love to hear what you think. So please let us know at ChatEDU@edadvance.org. That's EDADVANCE.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Andre Angelo and Justin Pasco, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is the multi-talented rock star Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the Executive Director at EdAdvance, and I want you to know how much we appreciate our listeners. If you enjoyed the podcast, feel free to explore EdAdvance's other AI services, which include customized professional learning of all kinds, conferences, and our micro-credential co-sponsored by the Southern Connecticut State University Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning. Just visit skills21.org/AI to learn more. That's all for now, and thank you again for listening to ChatEDU.